Welcome back. In today's episode, part 2 of our interview with Gene Hammett. Today we discuss how do you run a profitable business if you have a limited budget, and also find the profitable niche within your niche.
Welcome to this edition of Peak Performers Podcast with your host, Thor Conklin. Thor will be sharing the necessary tools, strategies, and psychology you'll need to become a peak performer in any area of your life or business.
Thor Conklin here. We give you the tricks, the tips, the tools, the strategy, the technology, and the psychology peak performers use in order to get more done and execute at the highest level. If you know what to do but struggle with getting it all done, or simply want to raise your game to the next level, this podcast is for you. Sit back and enjoy. So you told us some of the great advice you learned through your podcast. What's some of the worst advice you've ever received? You actually took it not knowing it to be bad advice, and you started executing on it only to find out later that, hey, this was not a good idea.
I've gotten some bad advice in this journey. I've gotten some really great advice. But the one thing that kind of sticks out to me the most is to slow down. When you are building a business and you're growing, it's really tempting to maybe slow down in some places. And I'm not saying that this applies to everything that you do, but when the iron is hot, when you are getting hot in the market, when you are whatever it may be, you want to lean into that. I've slowed myself down a few times. I've hesitated, and it's not necessarily been the best results for me. And I look at, I do things wisely. I try to, but I take smart risk, and I want to go fast. I want to test this. So I have a concept that I've been working on for a while with my clients is, a lot of people get caught up into perfectionism and procrastination. And some people perfectly procrastinate. But when I get them to look at their challenges in a different way, like looking at it as a test, things start to shift. Like if this were a test, how would we figure out the answer? Oh, this is what we would do. Okay. So when do you want to start that? Well, I want to know the answer now. Like we just mapped this out. I want to know if that's the answer. So if you look at everything as a test, it changes kind of the perspective of, well, do I do this later, or do I do it now, or what else do I need to have in line? So that's one of the biggest pieces of advice that people have given, and it's not just one person. I've had a lot of people go, Gene, you're going too fast, you're going too hard. My dad used to say you're burning on both ends of the candle, but sometimes you gotta go for it.
It's funny. I've never received that advice from people that are making more than I am. You notice that?
That's probably true. Yeah.
Maybe one day if someone is doing that and recommends, maybe I will. But you're right. Momentum is so important. When you got it going, you just got to keep the foot on the gas, because if you let off, it takes so much more energy to get it going again. You're accomplishing so much. You've got so much going on. I am identifies who you are at your core. Who are you? Fill in the statement. I am.
I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I'm a son. I'm a friend. In a business sense, I'm a coach. I mean, I know I speak a lot. I write a lot. I'm a podcaster, but I love coaching. I love the connection that I have with a client that needs to move to the next space, that might be fearful, that doesn't have the strategy. Most of my clients come to me because they know they have more potential inside them, and they're not living up to it, and they know they want it, but they don't know how. So I am a coach, and I say I'll never retire from this. I don't know if my wife likes that, to be honest with you, but I do put the asterisk at the end. It's like, I'll always take a meeting every once in a while, even when I'm 90, to just work with someone that needs to help through whatever that is. And that to me, that's what will be fun. And when I'm older, once you've had 70 years of experience, why not use that? So I don't think I'll ever retire.
Yeah, I'm the same way. You will never find me in a retirement community. I'll retire, if you want to call it retire, to some, college town where I'm constantly involved with people and things. Because I think you and I are very similar. When you start to get really good at what you're doing, it only takes you a second to figure out what's going on a lot of times. You can just look at it and go, I've seen this before. And to know that you can just ask a key question, give a bit of advice here, that's maybe all they need. That will absolutely change the course of their life. And why would you want to stop doing that?
Absolutely. And I tell you, I talked about the other business before. It was a very transactional business. $5 million in sales sounds like it's impressive to some people. Maybe it's a small number to others, but I was not happy. Like I completely was missing the fact that I made a difference in the world. I made money, and I'm one of those kind of stories that when I got the money, I said, "This is it." Like I thought it would be different. I thought it would be more satisfying.
Yeah.
Just having a bunch of money in the bank, or even, I didn't have millions in the money, but I knew that I could make any amount of money I needed to.
Yeah.
And I could live the lifestyle I wanted. So I had that freedom. I really did have security and whatnot, but I wasn't complete. And now that I moved into this, I call it, moving from success to significance. What I do matters.
Yeah. So many people confuse success with fulfillment, and they don't come along together. They're two different things.
And most people, I think success gets very individual, right? Most of our goals typically are, a revenue or a profit goal or a new, I'm going to write a book. That's a lot about me, right? But I made sure my book was about how do I make sure it's going to impact the world, or at least the segment of the market that I'm really going after with the book, because it's not for everybody.
Your core beliefs control what you do, how you do it, when you do it. What are some of your core beliefs?
Lead with courage. Don't let the fear that you have that bubbles up, and as you grow, fear will always be there, right? It is anybody who's not afraid, I'm going to tell you right now, triple your price. And then you didn't go sell that.
Oh, I have someone that did it at a zero.
Yeah, add
Think
a zero.
about that. Yeah, add a zero. Take your price and add a zero. And I was like, all right, add a zero. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, it changes things. And like, okay, no, I can't do that. But so that's one thing. Another one is really know who you serve. Like this courses through me. We talked about it earlier, but most people are so broad. My business, I started out really broad. Ron, who I talked about with SEO, really broad. I have another client named Jason Swank who just crushes it right now, but he started out, doing a service to small business owners. And I kind of chuckle whenever time we think about that, because small business is not really a target market. It really is just saying, I'll do business with anybody who'll do business with me.
Yeah. So help somebody that has that issue. They're too broad right now, and they're saying, look, I can serve the entire marketplace or a large segment of a marketplace. Why do I want to exclude giving XYZ segment my expertise? Why should I go narrow?
So if you have an unlimited marketing budget and you have a big team that can go after big markets, and you can segment, and you can have different industry experts, and you can have different, subject matter experts in these different areas, then you can do that, right? I'll just go ahead and say that if you're a GE and you're selling a new product across many markets, you're going to have the ability to put it out there in these sales teams and marketing teams and whatnot. But for most businesses, we work within constraints. So what are the constraints that we have to do? And was your question how or why?
Well, how entrepreneurs are so, in many cases, so hesitant to start to narrow it. Now, you and I know we've got a niche, okay? But so many of our clients say, look, I can do it all. I can do the plumbers. I can do the housewives. I can do the preschool. I can do, I can reach all of these industries. How do you convince your clients to just narrow in on one? How do you get them to be
I
okay
agree
with
with them. They can do all of them. I agree with them. I go with the flow. Yes, you can. But then I'm going to ask them, well, who are the people that get the most value from what you have to offer? And that starts to change the conversation. Then I ask them, which ones are most valuable to you?
Yes.
That changes the conversation. Which ones, what service do you offer them that is most valuable to the company? And when you start looking at the value side of it, what I typically do is I take a target market as a bullseye, and the outer ring is the target market. These are the people you can serve. These are all of the businesses that you feel like really could use this eventually. And then we look at the ring inside that as the niche. And then that is a great niche, because a lot of people they stop there. But I look at it because, if you think about it, let's pick an industry. Speaking. Okay. If you say I only work with speakers, because I know you do a lot of speaking, Thor, you're going to really miss the market if your market is just speakers in general. So if you look at that as the niche, I would say, what's your most profitable niche? Is your service for speakers that are more experienced, or are they beginners? It's a big question, right?
Yes.
You're going to talk to an experienced speaker differently than you're going to talk to a beginner speaker. They have different problems. They see the world differently, and they've gone through different things, and they're going to be at different price points. So when you start looking at business in general, and you find a target market, and then you can find the niche inside there, and then you find the bullseye, which I call is the profitable niche. That's where I get the value from. What's the most valuable to them? What's the most valuable to you? And what's the most valuable service you can offer them?
Tell us one of your biggest weaknesses.
Patience. Straight up.
Yep.
Every time I hear Gary Vaynerchuk talk about patience, that you got to have patience. You got to have patience. It honestly, it irritates me because I don't have it, and I know I need it. I don't have patience. I create the world I want to live in. I don't wait for it to happen to me. And so when I believe that, my core belief was another one I didn't add to the list, but I create the world that I see. So I'm naturally not going to be very patient.
Yeah. Most successful entrepreneurs are not very patient.
And it adds to my stress. It adds to the anxiety that I carry with me. And when I do something that I expect to get good results on, and here's the shocker: not everything works out. Not everything worked out the way I wanted it to in this journey. Over the last 4 years as a coach and before that as an entrepreneur, it didn't always work out.
Well, it's funny. I'm sure if I asked you what your one of your biggest strengths was, you were going to say lack of patience. Correct? I don't want to give you the answer, but I'm sure the reason that you've gotten to where you're at is you just weren't going to sit back and wait for it to happen. You got in there, and you weren't being very patient about it.
I think it does have a lot to do with my proactive nature. I learned early in my entrepreneurial career as a CEO, because I used to show up every day. I was firefighting. Every day was a new fire, a new customer problem, a new shipping problem, a new money challenge and cash flow. And I did that for months. And I'm like, this is not the way I'm going to make my money, make my mark just showing up every day. So I had to learn to be proactive. So I would say a lot of it has to do with, which I think it ties into the patience thing quite a bit.
Interesting. I started a business a few years ago, and my business partner and I took the role as COO. Man, I will never, ever be another COO. That is one role that does not suit me very well.
Is it because you're a visionary?
Yes. And yes, I like to think, I like to push the boundaries, push the limits, and I want to engage with people. I want to engage because I want to know what's going on. And I was responsible for making sure that we got kind of the structure done, and that, payroll was done on Friday and HR was taking care of what they were doing. And I mean, we built a very successful company, but it was like, as soon as I got it up and running, I'm like, look, it's running. I'm leaving. I'll keep my stock. And you guys, let me know what I can do to help. But please don't ask me to come back to be COO.
Yeah, it's a different way of seeing the world. A COO puts constraints and boundaries around what needs to be done. They put the systems in place. They're managing the people and the tools and all of that stuff. The visionary, which is usually the CEO, is the one going, wouldn't this idea be cool?
That's right. It's never been done before.
Me.
Let's do it. Exactly. I'm same way. Speaking of being a CEO and a visionary, it's really important for us to take time out of our day and disconnect and really spend time just thinking. Where do you do your best thinking?
A lot of it's running. And not really the natural runner, but when I do, I try not to always be listening to podcasts, which I listen to. I'm quite a bit of a junkie. I like to meditate some. I've been doing this for quite a while, where I will envision the day, the things that are going on that day. And it really is just a chance for me to kind of see how the day is going to unfold. And I envision one of the things that I do that might be a little bit different than most people is not only do I see the task or project coming up, but I actually see myself doing the work. And I go all the way through this and I see myself being finished with the work. It may be a small little thing, but I actually can see the joy I have when I finally hit the email to send that off to someone, or when I finally finish that campaign and I can hit go, or when I get a speech that I've got it knocked down, or maybe it's something else that's come into this. But I see all the different pieces of it, before I get out of bed in the morning, before I literally hit the feet will hit the floor. I've walked through the 3 most important things in my day, and I see it finish. And I get to kind of feel the emotion of it being complete. And that has really helped me with my vision of getting things done, but it also opens the space up to I know I can create.
Oh, that's great advice. I love that because I think so many of us get up in the morning and my mind starts working immediately of what has to get done. And I'm making notes and it's a part of a morning or a part of a day where content just flows to me first thing in the morning. I used to jump right out of bed. Now I actually spend about 5 minutes in bed taking notes and just thinking. But I love the fact that you said, see it done. Not just what has to get done today, but see it done. That's a great, great tool there. Love it.
I've learned too, because I write better in the mornings, and I do like to work out first thing. It's just I have to do the most important thing for me first. But I try not to schedule meetings in the mornings because I'm more creative in that space. So I would rather have my meetings in the afternoon. I do make some exceptions in this kind of patterns, but I really want to hold that sacred of the best time I am most creative and innovative with inside my own work. And that's the work for me, not for clients.
We all know that knowledge is not power, but taking that knowledge and actually executing on it, that's power. What kind of tools, tricks, tips, strategies do you use in order to execute on things?
Well, I talked about the vision experience of what I do. That's one of the tools I use. I do like to pick 3 things for the day. I do like to delegate as much as possible. Even things I do fairly well for my own business. I just don't like, I like giving other people stuff to do because, again, it goes back to I'm in the trenches. As far as tools, my calendar, and I know some people probably disagree with this, but I look at my calendar and I don't try to overpack it. I really try to create space, but I have themed days. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yes. Well, explain for the listeners if they don't understand.
Okay. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays are the days I typically take meetings with clients. So if you want to work with me, you're typically working with me on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I've recently had to start opening up Wednesday afternoons, but Monday is all about marketing and all about me and my business. Monday, I don't really want to reach out and call people and do anything like that. I just want to do what I need to do first. And I have to get it done on Monday because Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday gets really packed. Wednesday's kind of business development day, and Friday's the day I kind of catch up on things. I try not to schedule too much, lunches here and there, interviews here and there, because we're recording this on a Friday. That's a tool that I use as far as doing this. And then as far as like actually getting things done, there's a guy named Todd Herman. Do you know Todd?
I do not.
So he's got a different approach to goal setting where he looks at it, instead of going out for the whole year, we do a 90-day goal. And so I learned this from him, and I was talking to him about it, and then we break it down into a month goal, and we break it down into a 2-week sprint. I used to do kind of my stuff in a week sprint, or I didn't call it a sprint at the time, but I just called it a week. And I never was, I was not able to get done fast enough on some of my projects, and I was working weekends. But with a 2-week sprint, I know I've got a little bit more space to do these projects. And it's not that I actually make the projects bigger, but I choose fewer projects. So I use these individual sprints. I wrote a book recently, which we've talked about. I use this concept, religiously. The 90 days, I basically wrote the book in about 90 days.
Wow. That's fantastic. Every peak performer that has ever lived or will live does one thing extremely well. They know how to take their ideas and execute on them. Ideas and knowledge are not power, But the ability to execute on them, that is real power. If you consider yourself a peak performer and really want to take your game to the next level and truly master the science of execution, I would like to send you some information about our upcoming event, Business Execution Summit. Simply take your phone and text the word BE Summit, one word, to 41411. And I'll send you some additional information on how to master the most important skill you will ever acquire for your life or your business. That concludes part 2 of our interview with Gene Hammett. Please stay tuned later this week for the conclusion, part 3. Thank you so much for listening today. I really do appreciate your time, and I hope you found today's show valuable. If you would like to receive these shows automatically to your phone or to your computer, simply go to iTunes and subscribe. After listening to several of the shows, if you're so inclined, please leave us a 5-star rating, as this helps us reach additional people and spread the message. If you're truly committed to taking your life to the next level and doing whatever it takes to become a peak performer, but something's holding you back, something is blocking your way, and you just can't seem to figure out what it is, send me an email to info@thorconklin.com, and I'd be more than happy to get on the phone with you. We'll schedule a 15-minute discovery call. No obligation, no cost. I absolutely love to hear from the listeners, and if there's something I can do to help, I'd be more than happy to do that. Also, if you found something of great interest in today's show and you want to share that with your friends and family, simply go to my Facebook page, Thor Conklin, click on the episode, hit the share button, and share it on your page. You can follow me at Twitter at Thor Conklin. The website is thorconklin.com. We're constantly adding new free resources, discussing additional tricks, tips, tools, and strategies on how to be a peak performer. Remember, I try to keep these episodes short so you can listen to them during dot time, doing other things, commuting, driving, walking, working out. Decide to be a peak performer in all that you do. And until tomorrow, have an absolutely amazing day.